What is the difference between weather and climate?
When you walk outside and look around you, you can observe what the temperature is like, or if it is sunny or cloudy. You are observing the weather. Weather can change from hour to hour, from day to day. These observations will help you choose your clothes and possibly your itinerary for the day. Temperature and cloudiness are part of weather. Precipitation or rainfall and humidity, atmospheric pressure and wind are also part of weather. These are all part of the moment being experienced when you walk outside or look out your window. Climate, on the other hand, is the average weather in a given area over a long period of time. Climate can change too, but it usually takes a long time. Climate in a certain area is pretty much the same year after year. Climate affects many aspects of our lives. It dictates what type of clothing we have in our closets, the type of homes that we live in, our leisure activities, and types of sports we may play, what kind of crops we can grow in our area, and the types of natural vegetation that occur in our region. Climates, or climate regions, are influenced by several factors. One of them is latitude, or the distance a place is from the equator. The closer a location is to the equator, the warmer the climate, usually. But there are exceptions to the rule. That's because elevation or altitude above sea level is another factor. The higher a place is above sea level, the cooler that place is than another location on the same degree of latitude, but at a lower elevation. An example of this is Quito, Ecuador. It is almost exactly on the equator, but because it is located in the higher elevations of the Andes Mountains, it has a much cooler climate than you would expect. Distance from the ocean or other large bodies of water and the location on a continent can also affect a region's climate. Areas on the coasts of continents or near large lakes or bays or gulfs usually have milder climates than regions in the interior of continents. Water has a modifying effect on the climate. Interior regions get colder in the winter and may get very hot in the summertime. Location on the different coasts of continents can also help determine climate. Some climates, such as West Coast marine, are usually only found on the west coast of continents. The humid subtropical climate is found on the eastern sides of continents. Topography, especially mountains, can also influence climate. Mountains contribute to the rain-shadow effect. Rain-shadow refers to the arid regions on the leeward side of mountains. The leeward side is the side away from the prevailing winds that carry moisture inland. The windward side, therefore, is the side facing the prevailing winds. Prevailing winds are winds at a certain place or in a given region which occur in a certain direction at a higher frequency than any other direction. Rain shadows are most common when mountains lie parallel to coastlines. You can see the results on the western side of the United States and along the central west coast of South America. In the U.S., the Sierra Nevadas block rain-bearing winds coming off the Pacific Ocean. East of the mountains, or on the leeward side, there is a very large dry region. In Chile, on the west coast of South America, the rain drops on the west side of the Andes, and you have the Atacama Desert in the middle of the mountain range. This desert is one of the driest places on Earth.
What are seasons, and why are there changes in seasons?
Seasons are times of the year that are defined by special climatic conditions. The four seasons are summer, fall or autumn, winter, and spring. Some places experience all four distinct seasons. Some don't. The northern and southern hemispheres experience opposite seasons. When it is winter in the northern hemisphere, it is summer south of the equator. When it is spring north of the equator, it is fall in the southern hemisphere. The seasons are caused by the tilt of the Earth at a 23.5-degree angle, combined with its revolution or orbit around the Sun. Because the Earth always tilts in the same direction as it travels around the Sun, Different parts of the Earth are closer to the sun at different times of the year. Those parts of the Earth that are closer to the sun are experiencing the warmer seasons, while the areas of the Earth tilted away from the sun are experiencing the colder seasons. The seasons are delineated according to equinoxes and solstices. Equinoxes occur when the Earth reaches the places in its orbit when the sun appears directly over the equator at noon. There are equal periods of daylight and nighttime. These occur on or about March 21st and September 23rd. These dates correspond with the beginning of the spring and autumn seasons. We experience solstices when the sun's direct rays reach their maximum southern or northern latitudes. This occurs on or about June 22nd and December 22nd. Places on the Tropic of Cancer on June 22nd experience the longest day of the year, while locations on the Tropic of Capricorn are having their shortest day of the year. On December the 22nd, the opposite is true.
What does the term meteorology mean?
Meteorology is the science that deals with the study of the atmosphere and the weather. The atmosphere is a mixture of gases that encircle the Earth. This mixture includes nitrogen, oxygen, argon, helium, carbon dioxide, and other gases. Without this exact combination of gases, life on Earth as we know it would not exist. The atmosphere also acts as a screening filter to keep out harmful rays coming at us from space, such as most ultraviolet rays. The atmosphere can be divided into layers. From the bottom to the top they are the troposphere, the stratosphere, the mesosphere, the thermosphere, and the exosphere. Weather occurs in the troposphere. This layer is approximately 4 to 10 miles in depth, the thickest part at the equator and the thinnest part at the poles. Scientists, called meteorologists, use information that they gather about atmospheric conditions in the troposphere to forecast or predict the weather. Usually, meteorologists can predict the weather only a few days in advance. Climatologists, on the other hand, study weather changes over long periods of time.
What are some of the most common types of natural weather phenomena?
Meteorologists, or weather forecasters, commonly discuss weather fronts. A front is the boundary between two air masses of different temperatures and humidity. There are 3 types of fronts: warm, cold, and stationary. A warm front means that warm air meets a cold air mass. A cold front occurs when cold air overtakes a warm air mass. When cold air and warm air meet and neither air mass moves, you have a stationary front. Fronts sometimes bring quick changes in the weather in just a few hours or in a day. Rain and sometimes violent weather occur when a front moves in. Thunderstorms are just one example of violent weather. Thunderstorms occur when warm air is carried upward. Cumulus clouds are formed, and this causes updrafts that then carry even more moisture higher into the atmosphere. The clouds continue to grow. At higher altitudes, ice particles form. When the rain begins to fall, downdrafts are formed, and this brings on strong winds. Lightning usually occurs during a thunderstorm also. Another example of violent weather is a tornado. It is also called a twister in some regions of the world, such as the U.S. A tornado is an extremely violent whirlwind, or rotating column of air, that covers a relatively small area at one time. It can be about 600 to 1,600 feet wide. Tornadoes usually travel at approximately 30 miles per hour, and mostly on a straight course, although they have been known to change direction very quickly, going around houses while destroying other buildings all around that house. The winds inside the tornado may reach 250 miles per hour or more. Tornadoes have more concentrated destructive power than any other type of storm. They most often occur in the afternoon when surface heat has reached a maximum level. They are usually accompanied by thunder and heavy rainfall. Houses and trees are uprooted or destroyed. Bridges have collapsed, and other signs of violent destruction are seen after a tornado moves on. Although tornadoes happen in Australia, India, Russia, and other nations, they occur most frequently in the United States, especially east of the Rocky Mountains. Between 700 and 1,000 happen every year. Texas seems to be a popular place for these to occur. It usually records over 100 a year. Tornado Alley, a region in the U.S. where tornadoes happen most frequently, stretches from Kansas southward into Texas. But tornadoes can happen in other regions of the U.S. Some of the most deadly ones have occurred in Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and other places in the Midwest. The tornado season usually begins in early spring and goes on into the summer months. This is when warm air from the Gulf of Mexico meets up with the cold air moving southward from Canada and the northern U.S. states. Waterspouts are columns of rotating wind that come down from a cumulus cloud to a large body of water, such as a lake or an ocean. They are similar to tornadoes, but they are usually smaller and not as violent or intense. They occur most often in tropical and subtropical waters, such as off the coast of southern Florida and in the Gulf of Mexico. As with tornadoes, waterspouts most often happen during the warmer months. The top of the waterspout may travel at a different speed than the base, so it may look like it is bent or curved. These may last up to a half hour in duration, with approximately 50 miles per hour winds inside its column. Hurricanes are rotating tropical storms with winds measuring at least 74 miles per hour. Other names for the same type of storm in other parts of the world are cyclones, typhoons, or even Willy Willy, as they are called off the northwest coast of Australia. They are called cyclones in regions on or near the Indian Ocean. The storms found in the western Pacific are called typhoons. Hurricane is the name given to such storms that develop in the Atlantic and eastern Pacific Oceans. The hurricane season begins in the summer months and lasts through autumn. Typhoon season, though, has a lull period during July and August when easterly winds disrupt their development. Most Atlantic storms begin their development off the west coast of Africa, usually within the tropic region north of the equator. Many potential hurricanes never really become one. They merely remain violent thunderstorms. First, they are called tropical disturbances, and then if they continue to gather strength, they become tropical depressions. Tropical depressions include thunderstorms and a developed low-pressure center. If it continues to grow in intensity, it becomes a tropical storm with winds measuring at least 39 miles per hour. The next step in intensification is a full-fledged hurricane with a distinguishable center called the eye. Some hurricanes have been measured close to 500 miles in diameter. As hurricanes move over land or move into cooler waters, they lose strength and eventually become nothing more than thunderstorms again. Most damage done during a hurricane is done by water, not wind. Storm surges, which are waves that can measure about 25 feet above the ocean's surface, can account for over 80% of hurricane-related deaths. Huge amounts of rain accompany hurricanes. An average hurricane can drop more than 2 trillion gallons of rain each day of its existence. This can cause floods that can seriously damage a region and cause deaths also. In the region of the Indian Ocean, there is another type of weather phenomenon. It is called a monsoon. A monsoon is a seasonal change in the direction of the prevailing winds. They cause wet and dry seasons throughout this area. North of the equator, the summer brings torrential rains to the Asian mainland. The winter winds come off the mainland and are dry winds. South of the equator, especially in parts of Indonesia and in Australia, the winter winds bring the rain. Monsoon rains are the lifeblood of many of these areas, but they can be destructive. This is true especially in northern India and Bangladesh, where severe flooding often occurs during the rainy monsoon season. Even though monsoons occur mainly in the Indian Ocean region, places like the west coast of Central Africa can experience monsoon rains, but they are not always reliable. This video has explained the difference between weather and climate. We have seen examples of various types of weather phenomena and also discussed why there are differences in types of climates.